In this video, I will give you a quick introduction to SOLVATiO Smart Resolve, your one-stop tool for efficient customer incident resolution. This is the SOLVATiO Help Desk Agent Cockpit. It powerfully guides call agents through root cause analysis and repair, just like your most experienced support experts would do. Agent guidance is controlled by SOLVATiO's freely configurable automated support flows. Now, let's take a quick look at the various elements of the SOLVATiO Help Desk. When starting up a new troubleshooting session in the Help Desk, all relevant customer information gets instantly displayed to the call agent. Prior to the agent taking the call, SOLVATiO has already been quite active in the background, fetching customer information and subscription data from the CRM system, as well as performing automated background checks, the results of which get readily displayed below. Findings from those background checks are also used by SOLVATiO to dynamically generate the caller-specific service topology, providing a bird's-eye overview of the caller service infrastructure with real-time status indicators for relevant network components and home devices. As you can see here, various views can be selected in the SOLVATiO Help Desk. By the way, view layout and content are freely configurable by your flow designers in the SOLVATiO Studio Design component. The Diagnosis view provides the agent with guided assistance for analysis and resolution of specific customer problems. I will show you in a minute how it works. The Historical Diagnoses view provides the agent with an overview of earlier problems reported by the caller, including the findings and repair actions that were applied to resolve them. But now, let's take a more specific look at the findings of the background checks returned for our current problem. The Test Data view displays plain data retrieved from relevant service, network, and home device tests performed. It also depicts color-based status indicators based on data interpretations automatically derived by SOLVATiO. Control of agent access to specific views can be configured via SOLVATiO skill level concept, allowing you to ensure that functionality and views accessible in the SOLVATiO Help Desk exactly match the agent's user role. But let's watch how agents are powerfully supported by SOLVATiO to efficiently resolve specific customer problems. In our case, the caller reports to experience occasional TV picture freezes. SOLVATiO guides the agent through problem analysis, which can be set up in any combination of manual interactions, like a sequence of questions, as you can see here, as well as checks and tests automatically performed and analyzed by SOLVATiO in the background. As previously configured by your support flow editors in the SOLVATiO Studio, the dynamic support flow represents your best practice troubleshooting procedure with regard to root cause analysis and resolution of the caller's problem. In this particular case, the caller reports that audio is affected as well. As you can see, additional information and media can also be displayed to the agent, helping him to select the correct response options, for example. Eventually, SOLVATiO performs an automated background check of the caller's media box firmware version, which turns out to be outdated, the most likely root cause for the caller to experience TV picture freezes. In the service topology, we see the media box's status is now automatically switched to red due to the severity of the latest finding. Prior to the agent initiating the correct firmware version to be automatically pushed out to the caller's media box, the agent is prompted to explicitly ask the caller for his approval. SOLVATiO then triggers the firmware update to be started by dispatching an automated update command to the home device management system in the background. Once completed, the media box status is turned back to green. Assuming the picture freeze problem was resolved by the media box, now running the correct firmware version, the agent can optionally ask the caller to recheck and eventually leave his feedback prior to closing the session. All session data will get written to the SOLVATiO Journal Operations Session Archive. Now, with having learned that outdated firmware seems to be a potential reason for subscribers to experience TV picture freezes, let's find out in how many cases a firmware update had to be run in order to resolve the problem. As you can see on this dashboard derived from SOLVATiO journal data, about 70% of customer calls about picture freezes could eventually be resolved by a firmware update applied. With such a significant finding, wouldn't it make sense to get your picture freeze troubleshooting modified by having the firmware automatically checked and potentially updated while the caller is still interacting with your voice portal, thus eliminating the need for thousands of customer calls to be forwarded to your contact center agents in the first place? No big deal. With SOLVATiO, you can apply modifications to your troubleshooting procedures in just a few minutes. Let's go. I will first give you a quick overview of SOLVATiO Studio, demonstrating how quickly SOLVATiO automated support flows can be configured and modified in order to optimize your customer problem handling in contact center and self-service operations. There are basically four main work areas in SOLVATiO Studio. The design board for high-level definition and configuration of support flows. A powerful toolbox of versatile operators and function sets for detailed configuration of support flow logic and task execution. Context-specific definition panels at the bottom for definition of properties, data types, and variables, as well as for configuration of back-end interactions. And finally, the Studio Navigator for definition and administration of Studio projects and support flow modules for highest productivity and team support in flow configuration. On the design board, we can see the Help Desk segment of the support flow for IPTV picture freeze troubleshooting displayed. You can recognize the task objects for firmware check and repair in the lower right quadrant of the design board. Let's now switch to the IVR segment of the SOLVATiO support flow, as it was executed while the caller was still interacting with your voice portal prior to the call handover to the agent. You can recognize the handover task object at the bottom of the design board. Remember, we wanted to modify the IVR segment of the picture freeze support flow to also check the caller's media box firmware version and repair it if required, before the decision for a call handover to the contact center is made. Let's just do it. First, we place two new process call activity tasks onto the design board. We will later assign the already existing modules for firmware check and repair assigned to them. For better readability, we then disconnect and delete the old flow connection to the handover task and build a new one, now including the newly added two task objects. A logical gateway is included to decide if, based on the executed firmware check, a firmware repair is required. Otherwise, the call should still be handed over to the help desk agent in case the firmware version was found to be up to date already. Also, a new flow end node is attached to the lower inserted process call activity, defining the end of the support flow once the firmware was successfully upgraded. Finally, we name the two newly added task items as firmware check and firmware repair before selecting and assigning the already existing modules for check firmware and repair firmware to them. Last but not least, we have to configure the condition required to decide whether the call should be handed over to the help desk agent in case the firmware status was found to be okay already, or vice versa, if a firmware repair should be initiated in case the firmware status was found to be not okay. Here we go. It barely took us 3 minutes to get our picture freeze troubleshooting modified in Salvatio Studio. Finally, let's have a look at how the modified troubleshooting helps the next caller to get his problem fixed, this time by having him interact with your voice portal exclusively with zero agent interaction. For your better understanding, you see the voice dialog visualized. Mike is calling in to report a problem with his IPTV. He is experiencing picture freezes. Based on the modified IVR segment of our workflow, Salvatio now executes a number of background tasks, including the newly added automated firmware check on Mike's media box. Now it's the voice portal, controlled by Salvatio, telling Mike the firmware of his media box was found to be outdated and prompting him for his approval to have an automated firmware upgrade executed. The firmware is automatically updated in the background in order to resolve the problem. Mike certainly enjoys that his problem got fixed so quickly. And what's even better, your help desk agents were free to serve other callers in the meantime.